Well, good afternoon. 507 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. It appears Pete Hegseth is destined to become the next Secretary of Defense. A vote on that subject, a final vote expected by tomorrow evening. A vote to advance Pete Hegseth taking place today, a Senate vote of 51 to 49 to end debate on Hegseth's nomination. And voting against him, of course, Democrats, but also two nominal Republicans, Senator Susan Collins and Senator Lisa Murkowski of Maine and Alaska, respectively, both slandering him in statements that they've posted to X, suggesting that he is unfit to be Secretary of Defense. Never mind the fact that these two goobers vote for every Democrat that's put in front of them, including people like Lloyd Austin. How did that go when he was Secretary of Defense? For more on this subject, Kurt Schlichter joins us now. He's a Townhall Senior columnist, retired infantry Army colonel, and the author of the book, We'll Be Back, The Fall and Rise of America. We just lost him. All right, we'll get Kurt back. I think we're in the rise phase right now. We did the fall phase. I think we're in the rise phase of America. We'll reconnect with him now. Just to give you a sense, Lisa Murkowski's statement today, she says she commends Pete Hegseth's service to our nation. Sure you do. But she says that she must conclude she cannot in good conscience support his nomination for Secretary of Defense. She says she takes her constitutional responsibility very seriously. And as a result, she can't support him. She says she's concerned about his statements about women in combat. By the way, all of his statements on the subject of women in frontline combat roles are statements that women who have served in frontline combat roles violently agree with. If you ask women veterans, there's a lot of agreement with Pete Hegseth's public statements, and yet Congress pretends like it's not so. Also, she says that she doubts his character. She's concerned about his character. She's heard that he may have had a drink or two in the past, and as a result, she just can't go with that guy. Instead, she voted for Lloyd Austin, though. She liked all the 6, COVID masks that he would wear simultaneously, and how he would disappear for months on end without anybody knowing where he was. How they would try to keep it a secret that he was undergoing very dramatic surgery as the Secretary of Defense, and that he was there to oversee a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. That's all fine. But Pete Hegseth, that's too much. That's way too much. Again, on the phone, Kurt Schlichter. Now, Kurt, good to have you back on the show with us, sir.
Well, it's nice to know that I can never be Secretary of Defense because I was an Army infantry officer who liked beer and women. So I guess I'm disqualified now.
Yeah.
If I was a bizarre transsexual who stole luggage, I'm sure I'd be up for it. Or some weirdo dude who decided he was going to dress as a female admiral, I'd be all in.
Yeah.
Yay-ha!
Totally. And you'd get Lisa Murkowski's vote of approval. She would confirm you in a New York minute, but not so if you're Pete Hegseth, not so if you're a Republican. What is the deal here? I thought Murkowski was supposed to be a Republican senator from Alaska. Why is she voting against President Trump's nominees?
Well, look, she's living proof that nepotism kills. I mean, look, she's not Mazie Hirono, okay? She doesn't need somebody standing next to her to remind her to breathe, but she's no genius. She's a mediocrity elevated to a position of influence simply because we only have 53 senators in the Congress who are nominally Republicans. I don't have a problem with Susan Collins because she basically is what Maine is, and you're never going to get any better than that, and she just does her own thing. I get that. Murkowski represents a free state with normal people, and she's like Mitt Romney with less testosterone, if that's possible.
Maybe more, but still, that is an issue. That we have this going on. It looks like Pete Hegseth will prevail in the end. There's a lot of drama around this right now, but even if the vote is a dead tie, J.D. Vance will be there to break it. I mean, how important is it to get a competent Secretary of Defense in place quickly?
Well, let's face it, it's very important. It's important not only to get the Pentagon going the way it should, because it has not been going the way it should for about 30 years. But it's also politically important for Donald Trump. He's got huge momentum right now, and a loss here would slow him. I think Mitch McConnell would be happy to vote against Pete Hegseth, but he's smart enough to know that would be an utter disaster for anyone even remotely associated with him. He's going to go away soon enough. But if he didn't support it, his acolytes would be would take the brunt. And then, guys like Cassidy in Louisiana, he doesn't want a primary. To Tom Tillis, the senator who I think he was a particle physics PhD before he came to the Senate because he's smart. I think he's also going to go against his instincts and go along with it. I think Joni Ernst is really the template here because this backbencher mediocrity decided she was going to get a bunch of attention and praise by standing up to Pete Hegseth and his absolutely correct views of women in combat. And suddenly everybody looked at Joni Ernst and kind of dug a little deeper and found out she was a complete squish. And, I heard rumors, and I don't know if they're true or not, but after the conservative world turned on her, like Bruce the Shark on a naked swimmer off Amity Beach, she turned to her chief of staff and said, "How the hell do I get out of this?" By submitting completely and cravenly,
yes.
By groveling at our feet and slurping on our toes like Dick Morris on his birthday. It is... look, there are Republicans out there who think because there's 53, they can leverage a little attention by, playing hard to get.
Yeah.
And we're not interested in that. We'll go after them at the ballot box. No hesitation.
Have you ever seen a moment like this where the right is so attentive and ferocious at these critical moments?
No, and I love it. I've been doing this for, 40 years. This is what we've dreamed about. This is what we've hoped for. And there are, if you got a couple drinks into these Republicans, and that's probably very, very easy to do, they would tell you, I think it's really awful. Trump's, he's violating the norms. He's crossing over the guardrails. These invertebrate sissies have caused more damage over the last 30 years. They would be perfectly happy to collect their paychecks and their fake adulation as they managed our decline. And then they get a guy like Trump in here who's not willing to do any of that. And he's like, that executive order imposing affirmative action, we're getting rid of it.
Yes.
And I'm pardoning all the J6 political prisoners.
Yeah, and today he adds to that a whole bunch of pro-lifers who protested outside of these abortion mills while sitting in wheelchairs and singing church hymns, who had their lives destroyed. So he's off to a great start. In fact, on that issue of these executive orders, in particular, President Trump forbidding bigotry inside of the ranks of the federal government, stripping out these racial and gender prejudiced programs. The left, of course, going apoplectic about all of this. But it seems like it's working. What do you make of the president targeting all of this? The first guy in decades to finally decide and purge this bigotry out of the government.
Well, they literally tried to steal his presidency, then put him in jail for the rest of his life, and then murder him. So, he's got an axe to grind, and I'm glad. He knows what time it is this time. He is prepared. This is night and day from 2016. And you can't really blame him for 2016. He rolled into town without a Rolodex. He wasn't like a Bush with, 4,000 minions to take over the plum book slot.
Yeah.
But now he's got that. And they've been planning, and they've been thinking, and Trump loves it because he's getting attention. He's gotten the initiative. He's showing he's strong. He's showing he's powerful. He is getting stuff done. And look at the left, man. Let me ask you a question. I was a colonel. When I walked into a place, my first question is, who's in command? Mm-hmm. Who's in command of the Democrats? Who's in command?
We have no idea.
Nancy Pelosi?
Yeah.
She's nursing her hip and a cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
Hakeem Jeffries? Chuck Schumer? I mean, really, who's the guy setting the agenda? And what is their agenda? They don't have one. They're getting hit with shock and awe. They're getting hit from every single direction. In the military, we call it being inside the ODA loop. right? We're inside their decision cycle. He's hitting them so hard and fast. I mean, think about it. He just 2 days ago, he pardoned every 6J6 political prisoner. Normally this would be a 24/7 special news action report, and it isn't because they can't keep up with it.
No.
What are they going to get? Outlawing racism?
No, all of it. I mean, you're right. He's flooding the zone. So just think of he pardons all the January 6ers. He banishes DEI. He ends birthright citizenship. He's forcing all these federal employees back to work. It's the list is actually endless. Literally today, he declassified all of the JFK files, the MLK files, the RFK files. So he is nonstop. They have no leader. They have no unified message. They have no recourse, and they're still trying to get over the fact that they don't even understand the voter. They don't know what voters even want. They've discovered, and so that's really where they are now.
Well, and that's the other thing. They're fighting rearguard action against garbage nobody wants. Who's the guy who wants an illegal alien rapist to stay in the United States? Nobody. But like 160 Democrats voted for that to happen the other day. You know, what was her name?
Lake and Ryan. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, Rashida Tlaib. Well, when you vote like this, you target my mother. Well, if your mother's a freaking illegal alien rapist, stick her on a plane back to whatever third world hellhole she crawled out of. Ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, look, you know, we're making him come down. No, I stand strongly in favor of castrating young children in order to please their Chardonnay-soaked Munchausen mommies. Okay, not a popular position in the non-psychotic sector of America.
Right, which is here and voted for Trump. It's really, really remarkable. Well, I'm pumped about it, Kurt. It sounds like you are too. So I was just saying as I was introducing you and we were having trouble connecting, your book title will be back, The Fall and Rise of America. I'd like to think we're on the rise side, right?
I think we're on the rise part. I just hope my newest book, The Attack, doesn't come true. I'm still very, very worried about terrorism because these guys have left the door open. I mean, it's fun to laugh about this stuff, but there are a lot of people here who want to murder us, and it's all because of the Democrats. And we've got to fix that before it's too late.
Yeah, amen. All right, Kurt Schlichter, thanks as always for staying vigilant and for joining us today. Good to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
There he is, Kurt Schlichter, retired infantry Army colonel. Lots coming in. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. I call her Crazy Crockett. She's really a fraud, isn't she? She likes to pretend like she stands up for black people in America all the time. She doesn't. Listen to this tweet just for a moment ago. The Constitution is crystal clear. If you're born on American soil, you're an American citizen, she says. I'm grateful there are still some within our justice system who refuse to abandon their oath of office to uphold this sacred document, even if Donald Trump has. What? It's not even grammatically correct. Even if Donald Trump has? Anyway, the 14th Amendment was written to ensure that former slaves are considered full United States citizens. That's why the 14th Amendment was written. Not so Chinese tourists can have American babies, like Jasmine Crockett. She's a psycho, and no principles whatsoever, none whatsoever. Obviously. What else do we have? Oh, this is good. Tom Homan is making the rounds. He was just on the Fox News channel here a few moments ago, and I'm going to play this audio. This is the guy. The violent illegal from Haiti who was just taken into custody. Bill Malugin at Fox captured this on camera. He's screaming out of the rear window of a police cruiser that he's not going back to Haiti, that he hates Donald Trump, and he loves Joe Biden and Barack Obama for letting him stay in this country and make it worse.
I'm not going back to Haiti. Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
I'm not going back to Haiti, he said. Interesting. Tom Homan reacted to that.
You see that video, I'm curious, what do you think?
Well, he's wrong. He's going back to Haiti.
Well, he's wrong. He's going back to Haiti. I don't know what else to tell him. Sorry, bud. Haiti is your destination now. And thank goodness. The arrests have been continuing. I'd like to get an update on the numbers, but a lot of illegals have been taken into custody already. Hundreds of them, including attempted murderers and child molesters and rapists, all being taken into custody. These are all people that the Biden administration knew were in our country. And it takes President Trump being here to finally go after them. It's having an impact. We've got new numbers on the border. Yes, border crossings are now plummeting. People are deciding against the dangerous journey into our country because it turns out if they don't expect success, they're less likely to do it. What a novel idea. And pro-illegal alien groups are scrambling to figure out what they're going to do. There are raids all across the country. Immigration, quote, attorneys who have been aiding and abetting all of this, even their offices are being raided today. America is healing. All the updates ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show. Good afternoon to you. It's 5:35 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. We are keeping an eye on what's going on with our southern...
You see that video. I'm curious. What do you think?
We're keeping an eye on what's going on with our southern border right now. And we've got, first of all, a dramatic drop-off in the number of people who are even attempting to cross it. According to Fox News, border crossings are plummeting to unseen levels right now. There's been a sharp drop in illegal immigrant encounters in just the first days of the Trump administration. That's compared to the final few days of the Biden administration. The number of Border Patrol encounters at the southern border in the first 3 days of Trump is 35% lower than the final 3 days of the Biden administration. And so, in fact, those final 3 days of Biden consisted of 3,908 encounters. They've dropped down to 2,523 total over just the first few days of the Trump administration. So falling off dramatically from those obscene highs that existed throughout the Biden administration of people just illegally pouring into our country. There's just people realizing, no, this isn't going to work. And one of the reasons for that is because the Trump administration has declared that if you catch these people on the border, eject them immediately. They're catching people on the border and they're dumping them back on the other side of the border without any process whatsoever. Just get rid of them. Just get rid of them. Also, the Trump administration has deployed the military as well to the border. They have sent some 1,500 troops, and that includes the Marines, who Jennifer Griffin reported are coming from California, who are armed, who do have ammunition on them, and are prepared for the cartels if necessary. That's a really big deal. And, you know, this is an administration that's obviously taking it all very seriously. In fact, here is ABC, this is Good Morning America today, reporting that the troops have arrived.
This morning, the first 1,500 U.S. troops are arriving at the southern border as President Donald Trump launches his long-promised crackdown on immigration. The active-duty Army soldiers and Marines deployed to address what Trump declared is a national emergency. The Pentagon says the troops include military police units, combat engineers, and intelligence specialists who will aid with detection and monitoring. The military will also help construct new barriers along the border and provide air power for deportations. A senior defense official saying, "This is just the start. We are anticipating many further missions."
I like that. Air power for deportations. I'll take it. So we've got a kind of an all hands on deck approach right now to getting rid of everybody. U.S. Border Patrol agents, according to CBS, have been told to summarily deport migrants without granting asylum hearings under a new Trump edict. So President Trump invoking sweeping presidential authorities to reject, to block, to deter the invasion of the United States of America. So that's all good news. Let's see here. Pro-illegal alien groups are scrambling to deal with all of this because in addition to the border being locked down, the ICE raids are underway, and all sorts of violent illegals have been taken into custody. Also, Bill Maluzhin reported that there are also collateral illegals. So basically people who are not on the government's radar for being violent criminals, but they're here illegally, and they're hanging out with their violent illegal alien buddies. They're being taken into custody, too. Here's Bill Maluzhin, first and foremost.
This is what ICE calls collateral.
So you guys got your main target just now, but you got somebody else. What just happened?
So our main target was released by a sanctuary jurisdiction, not honoring a detainer. That person was released back into the community, and when we went to go find him, he's with somebody else who was previously removed from the United States. So he's going to go today, too.
And that is exactly what Border Czar Tom Homan has warned would happen.
When we find the bad guy, he's probably with others that are in the United States illegally. They may not be a criminal priority, but we're not walking away from them.
We're not walking away from him. We find out that you're here illegally. Guess what? There are consequences for that, and you will be subjected to them. Axios reports today that immigrants and advocacy groups nationwide are scrambling to prepare for the waves of raids. Let me begin with pointing out the lie that's at the top of this. Literally the very first sentence. First word. It's not immigrants. It's illegal aliens. If you wanted to use the word immigrant, somebody who migrated here illegally, you'd still say illegal at the top. They don't even say that. Immigrants and advocacy group. If you're a legal immigrant to the United States, you are not preparing for waves of deportations. This doesn't affect you. This is irrelevant to you because you came in the right way. These illegals and their advocacy groups are scrambling to prepare for raids from President Trump. Confusion and persistent rumors about how the raids will be carried out and what will happen to those detained by immigration agents are leading some anxious immigrants to refuse to go to work or send their children to schools, the groups say. Lawrence Benito, executive director of the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, this would be an illegal alien protection operation, said his group received 400 calls to its hotline on Monday alone, compared to 800 in January before Trump's inauguration. The New Mexico-based immigrant rights advocacy group Somos un Pueblo Unido said it's launching a Know Your Rights campaign around the state to help illegals. They say immigrants. Other groups are handing out cards to illegals that advise them to not allow federal agents into their homes without a warrant. Some groups are preparing an army of lawyers to jump into immigration cases. Denver public schools are among several districts bracing for possible immigration raids on students. They've directed principals to lock down campuses if federal immigration agents come knocking. Some Chicago restaurants are keeping I-9 documents and other worker verification paperwork ready in case of visits by immigration and customs enforcement agents. Chicago's police department said in a statement it will, quote, not assist or intervene in civil immigration enforcement, but as always, we will continue to enforce the law if a crime occurs. Okay, so what Chicago's police department is saying is, I presume here, if they're not going to assist or intervene in civil immigration enforcement, that means they're going to continue with this sanctuary city horse crap, that we're going to aid and abet violations of federal law. Here's what Immigration and Customs Enforcement has to say about that.
ICE Boston says they will continue to go into sanctuary jurisdictions and do their job.
Today was a good day. Today we took several significant public safety threats out of our communities. Unfortunately, a lot were released by sanctuary policies, but we're here to tell the Commonwealth and the rest of the country that we're going to find them whether they're released or not.
And guys, shortly after we finished filming, ICE Boston told us they arrested 2 more targets in other parts of town away from our cameras. One of those targets is a previously deported Honduran illegal alien who was arrested for raping a woman while putting a gun in her mouth. The other target they got is a Haitian man who first flew into the United States in 2023 as part of President Biden's controversial migrant flights mass parole program. Well, they just picked him up yesterday because he's been arrested locally for sexual assault.
Disgusting. All people that shouldn't have been here, that the Biden administration knew about, even brought into the country, as you just heard, the Trump administration getting rid of them, thank goodness. So what effect is this having? Well, it's interesting. Breitbart has a report that this is actually leading to a bit of a game of hide and seek for Tom Homan, because now illegals are going into hiding and not going out into the streets. According to Breitbart, illegal aliens fearful of Immigration and Customs Enforcement under President Trump are staying inside, reportedly causing foot traffic to drop by 50% in a busy Chicago shopping district known as, quote, the Mexico of the Midwest. A 50% decline in foot traffic in a district that apparently is densely populated by illegals. That's the implication of this report here. Chicago's Little Village neighborhood, dotted with taquerias and Mexican grocery stores, turned into a ghost town by Monday afternoon after Trump was sworn into office, according to a report by Bloomberg. By Tuesday morning, several shops in Little Village, which is known as the Mexico of the Midwest, were closed. Quote, business was just down. People were staying home. People were worried about, one, the cold, but two, they were fearful of engaging with ICE. Mike Rodriguez, an alderman for the 22nd Ward, which includes Little Village, told Bloomberg. Rodriguez added that he was, quote, walking the business corridor 3 days ago on Friday and spoke with a street vendor who told him sales were down by about 60%. Word had reportedly gotten out over the weekend that Chicago might be one of the first cities hit with illegal immigration raids following the swearing in of President Trump, sparking alarm among illegal residents. Quote, we have heard that they are targeting as many as 2,000 people initially in the city of Chicago alone, said Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker on Tuesday, who, by the way, is a filthy rich billionaire who loves exploiting illegal aliens for his luxurious lifestyle. Trump also declared to enforce U.S. law during his inauguration speech, heightening the fear among illegal aliens all the way across the country. So that's Breitbart's report today. Now, we also are seeing a raid today. There was a raid in Rhode Island, in Providence, Rhode Island. FBI agents raided the downtown Providence office building that housed a Rhode Island immigration lawyer who also happens to be a municipal court judge for the town of Central Falls in Rhode Island. Joseph Molina Flynn is an immigration lawyer and a municipal court judge, and the FBI just raided him today. There's got to be a lot to this story. They say they quote here. This is Boston Globe today. FBI searches office of immigration lawyer in Providence. The mayor of Central Falls, Maria Rivera, talking to the Boston Globe, quote, I was deeply concerned to see the reports of an FBI search at the law office of Joseph Molina Flynn. As the Central Falls community knows, transparency and accountability are priorities of mine. In an effort to uphold the integrity and focus of the municipal court, Judge Molina Flynn has now officially resigned his position. So he resigned his position as a judge. He's been subjected to an FBI raid. And they point out that he at one point was an illegal alien himself. He became a U.S. citizen. What has he been up to? How many people has he been helping break the law? I mean, why would the FBI raid the guy unless he was implicated in something like that? So we'll find out more about that. And this is only the beginning. Stephen Miller, one of the top aides for President Trump in the White House, was on with Jesse Waters last night, and he said, you've barely seen the beginning of this.
The initial immigration raids have already arrested and removed some of the most vicious criminals in this country, including child pornography cases, homicide cases, sexual assault, attacks on children. And this is just the very beginning in the effort to liberate this country from the migrant criminal threat. In the coming days, you're going to see a massive scale up in enforcement activities all across the country.
A massive scale up of enforcement activities all across the country. So this is only the beginning, and I like where we're at. So we've got the military deployed to the border. We have air support for deportation operations, Border Patrol agents who are told not to bother with long-term asylum claims, instead taking people and immediately ejecting them out of the country, raids on violent criminals all across the country, collateral pickups for illegals who are with those violent criminals, rapid deportations to get them out of the country, raids on people who are helping the illegal alien industry in the country, promises and obvious evidence of them going into sanctuary jurisdictions, and we've barely seen the beginning, the Trump administration says. It's a big deal. And I love, remember the Biden people, they kept throwing their hands up. They're like, well, what more can we do? What can we do? We're trying everything we can. It's a challenge, they told us. It's just a big challenge. Our hands are tied. What else would they tell us? They said, there's migration happening all across the planet. It's not just America. We're just like everybody else. And they were lying to you the whole time. They knew about these criminals. They knew about them. They knew where they were. They could have picked them up in a moment. They didn't. They just left them out there to terrorize the communities they were living in. And the tide is turning, which is nice to see. All right, your calls in a moment. A lot going on, as always. All right, let us visit the phone lines now. Madison is calling from Culpeper on line 1. Madison, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince, how you doing? Can you hear me?
I hear you. Great, Madison. What's on your mind today, sir?
Hey, man, I had a question. Number one, when did illegals get civil rights or rights? I'm confused about that because that seems like something that the Democrats and these activist groups, activist lawyers seem to feel like they have a foothold on that one. Is there something that I don't know about? And the other thing
just on that point, just for a moment, you have plenty of time. I just want to say on that point, one of the things that stood out to me this week, President Trump finally reversed this requirement that if you're a legal immigrant to the country, that you have to have a forcible COVID jab in order to come in legally. But if you were illegal, there was no such requirement. And in fact, you were given like a goodie bag by the United States government. You were flown into the country. You're brought all over the place. It's unbelievable the extent to which the left will bend over backwards for people who break our laws, as opposed to taking care of the people who follow them and our citizens.
I mean, yeah, it seems like everything that they were doing on the left, the whole mission was to break up the American nuclear family. And, not to change the subject, because really, as a black man, I'm happy that Trump did away with DEI or whatever it's called, because it's never helped me. Most of my friends that I know who happen to be black, they didn't get their jobs through affirmative action or DEI. It seems like that was just a haven for the LGBTQ community to be able to get positions, and an example of that would be California. But, getting back to
you mean
where
the chief qualification to be a fire chief is that you're a proud member of the LGBT community?
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like wherever you look and see where DEI was, that's what you saw. It wasn't something that, so when you start talking about Constitution,
yes,
you're talking about 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. Those amendments were specifically created for black Americans.
Yes.
And so a lot of black Americans are upset. No, Trump did away with DEI, but you let these other people, these subcultures, so wannabe, quote unquote, air quotes, call themselves cultures, become parasitic to African Americans. And it's corrupted everything.
Well, this goes back to the point I was making before. Madison, you may have been responding to this, but Jasmine Crockett, the Democrat congresswoman, she came out today and said that anybody who gives birth on American soil deserves to have an American citizen child. And I'm saying, and she says that's the Constitution. That's not the Constitution. You just correctly pointed out the 14th Amendment was designed to ensure citizenship for former slaves.
Correct. It's ridiculous, man. I hear the music. I know you sound like you're ready to go. Thanks for taking my call, man. I appreciate it.
I'm glad you called. And never fear, the music, it shows up, And we talk, what do they say in radio? Up to the post? We're fine. We can handle that. Hey, one thing you should know about, we've got a great podcast. If you want to hear calls like Madison's or any of our great interviews today, please go sign up for the Vince Coglianese Show podcast. You can check it out there. And we will be covering all of the news coming out of the Trump administration, including just how plainly he was speaking today to the World Economic Forum. God, I'm so glad he's back. The great one, Mark Levin, will talk about it more all ahead on WMAL.